But hey, welcome to 1128. My name is Mike, and if we haven't had the chance to meet yet, let me just say that I'm so glad you're here this morning, because I think this morning has the potential to really set the trajectory for the next, how many weeks? This is week 3. So the next 6 weeks after this, right? Like today is like the pivotal week in the whole thing. So today, let me just recap by saying we started off kind of just setting the stage that Jesus came, and we learned this in John chapter 10, verse 10, that Jesus came so that you and I, could have this fully alive life, that we could experience something more, that this life that we feel trapped living, that we would realize and accept the invitation to step into this life that Jesus has for us. And then last week, we said, okay, so if Jesus came for this life that's fully alive, that he wants us to accept this invitation, well, why don't we? What keeps us from accepting this invitation? And we said, well, right before Jesus said there's this life that he's come so that we can experience to the full, he also warned us that there's a thief. And that thief is going to kill, steal, and destroy. And the thing that the thief wants to steal and destroy is the fully alive life. And so we've just been asking some questions surrounded around these things, because the thief tells you that you're not lovable. Jesus tells you you are lovable. The thief tells you you're not valuable. Jesus says, no, you are valuable. Some of us, we believe the lie the thief tells us, that we just need to seek out approval. Like that momentary, like feel-good approval, that's gonna sustain us. That's what the thief tells us. But Jesus tells us, no, like intimacy, trust, deep connections, that's what sustains you. The thief tells you, control that moment, make it happen the way you want it to happen. And Jesus says, no, like use influence to make others better. Don't settle for control and to get it your way. Like influence others, be selfless rather than selfish. And this is where we are today. We're in Matthew chapter 4 to start, and Jesus he's out in the wilderness. He's out there for about 40 days, 40 nights. And when I say wilderness, like imagine with me, like I'm imagining a desert. Sand, maybe, nothing else. Maybe the occasional cactus, piles of stones. I don't know, like I'm just imagining like wilderness. I'm not imagining like trees where you could pick berries from and eat them, or a little pond of water. Like I'm imagining like nothing, like hard to survive. Jesus is out there by himself. In fact, he was led there to be tempted. Why would Jesus be led there to be tempted? Well, it's because like we were tempted as humans, and Jesus, being fully God and fully human, he was led there so that he could get the full human experience. And so Jesus is led into this wilderness to be tempted by the thief. See, like we were tempted, Adam and Eve, they were tempted, and they gave in. Jesus, though, he doesn't give in, even after like all this time. Jesus, he's hungry. He's thirsty. I'm sure after 40 days of being out there, like he's lonely. I imagine that he struggled to sleep. So he's tired. Maybe he's sunburned. He probably doesn't look like me, like pasty white, so he didn't sunburn too easy. But like his body is just like worn down. His mind is worn down. And we get to this place where the devil, the thief, tempts him and says like, hey, you can have all of this. Call on your angels to save you. You can have all of it. I'll give you everything. The thief is trying to trick him into thinking like you can have all of this stuff. And the thief is more or less telling him like, this is mine and I own it and I'll give it to you. It's kind of a weird trick, right? Because we already know that God created it. God owns it. It belongs to God. The thief is offering something that isn't even his to offer. And at this weak moment, body worn down, mind worn down. Jesus says to the thief in chapter 4, verse 10, away from me, Satan. For it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve him only. Away from me. He didn't say, you know what, that sounds pretty good. Like, I think I will take you up on this offer. Jesus didn't settle in this moment. He didn't fall into believing the lie that what the thief was offering was going to be better than where he was. You see, Jesus, in that moment of physically being weak, of mentally just being exhausted, he chose us. He chose me. He chose you. In a moment that all of us would have very easily given in, Jesus had us first. Jesus remembered us first. You see, Jesus, all throughout his life, it was always others first. He was there to serve and to love. And this set the stage for the remainder of his life. If we jump ahead to Matthew chapter 26, Jesus he's in the garden. He's already had this meal with his friends, and they've already done the whole Last Supper thing, and now he's going out to the garden to pray. Like the crucifixion, that walk to the cross, the arrest, all of that stuff was right there. It was right in front of Jesus at this particular moment, and so he went to pray. He went to spend time with the Father before starting that journey, that painful journey towards death. And he went out there to pray, and he became overwhelmed. It says here in Matthew 26 that my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me. He's asking his friends, stay here, keep watch. I'm going to go over there and pray. You guys stay here. And it says, going a little farther, he fell down. Jesus fell down with his face to the ground, and he prayed. I imagine there's just so much emotion in this moment. So much turmoil on the inside. I mean, we read it, right? Continuing, it says, my Father, if it's possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will. Jesus is here in this moment, really struggling with man, I know that where I'm going and what I'm going to do, it's not about me, it's about them. I know that, but man, this is hard. There's some hard things ahead. And Luke tells us in chapter 22 that his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground. I've never cried blood. I imagine none of you have cried blood either. But imagine having something so painful, emotionally so upsetting, that blood started to drip out of your eyes. Tears of blood. It's a hard moment. It's a hard moment to realize, man, the whole world, all of creation, it can be changed because of my death and my resurrection. But that death sounds really horrible. It's a hard moment to process, I'm about to be arrested. I'm about to be put on trial for nothing. I've done nothing, but I'm going to be put on trial, and eventually I'm going to be chosen to be put on the cross. I'm going to be whipped, beaten, spit on, mocked. That's all painful stuff. And then I'm going to be nailed to a cross. through my hands and through my feet. Put up there, left up there to die for something that I'm not guilty of. Yet not as I will, but as you will, Jesus says. You see, in this moment, Jesus, he didn't use his control, his ability to control. He didn't settle for control to say, I'm just gonna save the world and snap my fingers. He said, no, I'm gonna use my influence to change all of creation. Jesus, in this moment, he wasn't selfish. He was selfless. You see, Jesus, in this moment, he chose us first. Jesus, in this moment, he chose me first. Jesus, in this moment, chose you first. Are you seeing a pattern here? Like Jesus continually chooses us first, me first, you first. Chapter 27, Jesus is on the cross, right? Like he's walked all the way there. He's been nailed, he's been put up, and he's on the cross now. In 27 verse 42, it says that they are mocking him. Like the people around, the guards and those that had put him up there, they're there and they're mocking him. They're making fun of him. They're challenging him. They're throwing insults at him. And they say that he saved others, they said. But he can't save himself. He saved others, but he can't save himself, is what they're saying. And he's the king of Israel. So if that's all true, let him come down now from the cross, right? Like if he's really who he said he was, he can just take himself down. If he's really who he said he was, he can save himself. Like why is he doing what he's doing? If he were to do that, we will believe him. If he were to save himself, we would trust him. If he were to take himself down, that would be the defining moment for those people standing there. Like, could you imagine yourself being there? Like, hey, take yourself down, Jesus. Like, I've seen you feed thousands of people. I've seen you make men walk. I've seen you heal the blind. I've seen you walk on water. But you can't save yourself from this cross. If you were to save yourself from the cross, if you were to take yourself down, then I would believe you. Then I would know that you are who you said you are. And I imagine for Jesus, in that moment, he could have settled for approval. Imagine like everybody going, oh, if he had taken himself down from the cross right there, that moment of approval, man, that would have felt great. But he knew that if he were to settle for approval in that moment, the influence over all of humanity for all of time would have been lost. The thief tells us to settle for approval. And Jesus says, no. Use your influence to make a difference. Don't be selfish. Be selfless. Jesus in this moment was selfless. Jesus in this moment chose us first. Jesus in this moment chose me first. Jesus in this moment chose you first. 3 times this morning, Jesus chose us first. He didn't put himself first, he put us first. He put me first, he put you first. By choosing the cross and by choosing suffering, Jesus chose you. Have you ever thought about that? Like Jesus on the cross, he wasn't there for himself. He was there for you. He was there for me. Jesus chose to die. Jesus chose to suffer for you. Jesus repeatedly chose influence. He chose to be intimate with the Father. He chose influence when control would have been easier. Right? Like we choose salvation for ourselves. We accept grace. We accept forgiveness. Jesus doesn't force it on us, right? Like Jesus does not choose to control us. Jesus offers those things and influences the world on the cross. We choose for ourselves whether or not we want to receive those things, because Jesus does not choose control. Jesus repeatedly chose intimacy, that deep connection, that trust. He chose that over and over and over when approval, I'm sure, felt better in the moment, right? Like relationships require trust. And if Jesus were to just settle for being approved of, would we really have a genuine, trusting relationship with him? Jesus followed through so that we can trust him. And approval in that moment, in any of those moments, that momentary good feeling we get when everybody's like, man, like, yes, like he did the thing. Like he knew, like if he settled for approval in the moment, that we, you and I, might never have a real relationship with him. Jesus is the hero of the Bible. From start to back, it talks about Jesus. From Genesis all the way through Revelation, Jesus is the hero, and you can see it if you look for it. Jesus is the hero of the Bible, and today Jesus wants to be the hero in your life too. Jesus wants to be your hero too. And the hard part is, like so many of us, that's uncomfortable, right? Because if you're honest, like you like being the hero. If you're honest, you like saving people, right? Like you love to pull people from their bad decisions and to say like, hey, I told you you shouldn't have done that. Or hey, like you're here now, let me just pull you out of there. Like, let me help you, right? Like you love to tell people like, man, like let me help you raise your grades. I want to save you. I want to be your hero, right? Like you've got a really bad like trajectory in life, but let me tell you something. Like I might have a job that can turn your fortunes around. You've got bad relationships. Let me help you. I can be your hero. I can tell you how to fix it. You struggle with addiction, pornography, drugs, alcohol. Heck, maybe you're even addicted to lying, right? And there's a person that's like, hey, I got out of that myself. Let me help you get out of it, right? Like maybe you're the one that's saying, hey, I can help you. We like being the hero. That person says like, I need a few dollars just to get through this thing. And you're like, I got a few dollars. I'll help you through this thing. Like, I can be your hero, right? Like, this is the problem. If we're being honest, like being the hero makes us feel good. Being the hero makes us feel like, man, I did something good. Man, being the hero, it kind of inflates our ego. And we like it. Because then we can look back and we can say, I did that. I got that person out of their situation. I changed that person's life. Like I can look and see like 10 people that I have been the hero for. And man, look at their life now. Like look at this resume I'm building for myself. I fixed their problem. I'm the best. I am the hero. And some of us, we'd never admit this, right? But like right now, like you're going to hear this and it's going to hit hard. Some of us, we like being the hero because we can hold it over somebody else. Hey, remember that time that I helped you out in that situation? Hey, remember that time I loaned you a few bucks? Remember that time that you were stranded somewhere and I picked you up? Like, maybe you feel like they owe you something. Maybe you just feel like they need to give you a thanks for helping me out. And if you're honest this morning, the big problem is if Jesus is the hero, it means that you're not. If Jesus is the hero, it actually means that you need saving too. If Jesus is the hero, it means that you can't save yourself. Let's just say it flat out. You cannot save yourself. If Jesus is the hero, it means that you're not everything that you thought you were. If Jesus is the hero, it means that you are not actually anyone's savior, not even your own. And here's the truth today. Jesus is the only hero. Jesus is the only hero because Jesus is the only one that will never fall short. Jesus is the only one that will never let us down. Jesus will never fail us. And the truth is, like, we've all either had a hero fail us or we've been the hero that has failed someone else. We've all had a parent that's failed us, a teacher that's failed us, a spouse that has failed us, a mentor, a friend. Heck, some of you have had a pastor that has failed you. And let me just say this, like, too many people make their pastors their heroes, and that's just a horrible idea because I am just a regular person too. Please don't make me your hero. Please don't make your neighbor your hero. Don't make your spouse your hero. Stop trying to be your own hero. And today, I invite you to say yes to Jesus being your hero. Because we're nothing like Jesus. We'll take the easy way out. We'll search for approval. We'll settle for that. We'll choose control because it feels good. But what feels good here today does not last for an eternity. The hero of the Bible wants to be your hero too and wants to do life with you each and every day for all of eternity. And it's not just me saying this stuff. Like, this is personal because if I'm being honest, I got a text message on Monday morning when I was sitting there and I was in the middle of doing some stuff. I was getting ready to actually write this message, and I was like, man, like I'm missing some content. And when you're missing content for a message, like somehow it seems to present itself. And so I was sitting there and I get a text message from an 1128 attender who I haven't seen in a few months just because of schedule and kids and work. And all it said is, hey, can you help me? And I'll be honest, I had some reservations. I sent a message to Colleen and I was like, hey, what do you think this is? Like, if I say yes, like, what am I getting myself into, right? Like, can I help you? That could mean anything. If I say no, like, there's a boundary there, like, I was really torn, right? But like, okay, I said, do you have another way to like fix whatever's going on? Like, can I be plan B? Right? Like, sure, I can help you, but I don't want to be like first choice here on the help list. If I'm being honest, like, I had some of my own priorities and my own selfishness that got in the way. And I forgot about it. That was at like 11 a.m. At 2 o'clock. I get another text message that says, hey, do you have time for a phone call? I get a phone call, and the person on the other end, they're a little bit hysterical. And they're like, we've been locked out of our house for hours. out of our house for hours. And I'll just say this, it's not Nikki. Nikki also was locked out of her house on Monday. I don't know what's wrong with people in our church getting locked out of their houses, but like it was not Nikki. This was somebody else. 2 people on the same day locked out of their house. And here I am. I'm like, okay, like calm down. Like, yes, I can drive. I can grab a spare key from your husband. Whatever. Like I can help you out. And so I did. I went over there. I got them all calmed down. Brought them some food because they'd skipped lunch and they were hungry, right? And they're locked out. And on Monday it was cold. And I go and I get the key and I come back and I leave the key because now they're like, picking up other kids from school and doing all the things. And man, like I put the key there and I got back in my car and I drove back to my house. And I'm like, man, I am a hero. Like I saved the day. Yes. That's not what it's about though. Like remember a few hours earlier when I put my own self first, when I said can I be plan B? I said yes, I could help you out when it was a little bit more convenient in my schedule. I'm no hero. I'm really no hero because I'm selfish. I prioritize my schedule, the things I want to do before most other people. And the reality is we all do it. We all do that. We think of ourselves as the hero because, man, I did something great. And let's be honest, that moment of doing something great is really just a moment to point to Jesus and say, Jesus is the real hero here. And I'm just being used by him. So here's the thing, for me today, I need to let go of that hero tag that I so easily pin to my chest and look at me. For you today, you need to let go of that hero tag, to take it off and say, I'm not the hero. Jesus, the hero of the Bible, wants to be your hero. I need to leave that tag behind. I need to acknowledge and accept the real hero in my life. I need to realize that the one who is the real hero is not defeated by anything, not even death on a cross, because 3 days later he rose again and he said, I am the hero. I am the only one who can give you life. And that life is full when you do it with me. So most of us today, we need to stop thinking that a fully alive life is something that we can achieve, something that we can earn, or something that we can win. It's not something that we can just go out and pick off the shelf and say I got it now. The fully alive life is saying, yes, there is a hero and it ain't me. Yes, there is a hero that wants to be in my life too. Yes, there's a hero that chose me first, that said yes each and every time, so that I might live. And that's the hero that I want to tell you about this morning. That's the hero that I hope you say yes to. Because that hero has a life beyond your wildest imagination. So say, yes, Jesus is my hero. And I choose him now. Let me pray for us. Jesus, would you be our hero? Would we receive forgiveness? Would we receive grace? Would we acknowledge that we cannot save ourselves? We have no ability to save others, that anything that we do, God, is because you allow us to do it. God, you are my hero, and I love you for that. Help me to live that way each and every day. I pray this in your name. Amen.